Hello and welcome to the Today's Homeowner Weekly Podcast. We're here to help you with the challenges we all face as homeowners. I'm Danny Lifford.
And I'm Joe Truini. And each week, Danny and I are here on the podcast to answer any and all home improvement questions.
And we want to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments at todayshomeowner.com/podcast.
Okay, Danny, let's get started.
Today's Homeowner Podcast is brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. This week, we provide some information to a homeowner that's been working so hard on a hardwood floor. She's got it to where we got just a little bit of adhesive to remove. We'll give her some tips on finishing up that project. Also, lime washing. Boy, we've done this on, fireplaces inside the house, but can you possibly do an entire exterior? Well, we'll let you know. Also, problems with water heaters. A lot of people have problems with water heaters, but if a water heater is 15 years old, well, it might be time for a new one. Also, have you heard all about people using chalk paint? Very, very popular on kind of upcycling different pieces of furniture in the house. But is it a good idea to chalk paint kitchen cabinets? We're going to explore that a little bit. And Joe, what about a simple solution for this week?
I've got a tip on how to use a bungee cord to store hand tools in the workshop.
All right, that's intriguing. Hey, we've got a lot of information to share with you, so let's get started. Right now, we're going to head right to Michigan. Nancy's on the line. Nancy, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing fine. I hear you're trying to recover a hardwood floor. Tell us where you're at with this.
Yeah, we have. It's a white. We found out it's a white and red oak hardwood floor, original to the house, probably built back in the 50s. And we're sanding it down. We've got most of it sanded down, but we did have this section that was in front of the front entry door and the coat closet that someone at some point had put ceramic tile down. Now, we got the ceramic tile up, and the hardwood floor is still under there. There was a thin black adhesive, we think like a linoleum adhesive that was used. And I've tried everything. I actually did remove it. I tried Goof Off and a couple other things. But the only thing that took that up was mineral spirits. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And my concern now is that on that hardwood floor in that section, now I have mineral spirits because I've had to go over it like 2 or 3 times, to get this adhesive up. Mm-hmm. And my question was regarding the mineral spirits on that hardwood floor. We want to finish sanding and then stain. We're going to stain it. We have to stain it a little darker because there are some stains in the middle of the living room part.
Right.
But I guess my concern is that mineral spirits. What do I need to do with that? Because that's on the hardwood floor.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like you've already done the lion's share of the work there, and congratulations on that, because that can really be a tough project to do.
Oh, it's been a job.
Oh,
yeah.
I can tell all kind of challenges there. But Joe, wouldn't you think? And I know the concern of the mineral spirits soaking down into the grain of the woods and so forth. But don't you think with evaporation that it's pretty much going to pull that mineral spirits out? I mean, if it's in a closet, certainly opening that and accelerating that with a fan could help, but the sanding in addition to just pure ventilation, don't you think Nancy's going to be okay on that?
Yeah, Nancy, I think most of the mineral spirits will have evaporated, and you can neutralize it just with water. So I would just take a damp cloth, like maybe an old towel, soak it in water, wring out most of it. You don't want it too dry, but you don't want it sopping wet. And just scrub the floor with that, then follow up immediately with some dry towels just to remove any excess water. You might have to do that a couple of times. And that's about all you would need to do. Now, if you needed to clean it, then I would go to a commercial product. There's a company called Bona, Bona, and they make a product called Power Plus Hardwood Floor Cleaner. And read the labels, make sure that it's for use on bare wood. I'm pretty sure it is, but something like that, or Rejuvenate makes one called Floor Refresher, to just get it as clean as you can prior to staining. Now, this is after you've cleaned out the mineral spirits, you've sanded, you've done whatever you needed to do, but before staining it and then applying a top coat.
Okay.
And I think it's going to look great. I mean, a combination white oak, red oak floor from the 50s that you've been able to save. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work, but you're probably never going to see a hardwood floor that looks like that because the old growth lumber used in those days, the wood's just spectacular. So congratulations for saving it.
Yeah, we thought we'd give it a try. There are some darker stains in the center of the living room, I think, just from where the carpet was on it for years.
Sure. Yeah.
But we're sanding it. If we can't, we'll just have to stain it probably a little darker to cover that.
Well, that's a good thing about staining it is you'll even it all out, because there'll be differences between the red oak and the white oak anyway, so this will sort of even it all out. And if some are darker and some are lighter, that's fine. I have red oak flooring in my house, and it just has a clear polyurethane on it, and some boards are really, really dark and some are really, really light. You know? But it looks fine to me. I don't know. I don't really look at it that much anymore.
What a great project. It sounds like you got a good positive attitude. That's half the battle right there.
Yeah, you're right. Well, thank you. That's not as bad as I thought it was going to be with the mineral spirits. I'll give that a try, and I'm sure that'll work.
Great, Nancy. Well, thanks so much for being a part of the show today, and best of luck to you, and have a great weekend.
Thanks so much. You too. Bye-bye.
I want to tell you about our Backyard Paradise contest that's happening right now. You can enter the Backyard Paradise contest for your chance to win an outdoor living space from our friends at Pavestone and Quikrete worth up to $10,000. Plus, the winner's makeover project will be featured on an upcoming episode of the Today's Homeowner television show. So here's the information you need to know. To enter, fill out the entry form, send us a picture or two of your backyard, and tell us why you need a makeover. The address you need to go to, todayshomeowner.com/backyardparadise. Now, the contest only runs through April 4th, so don't delay. Go right now and enter your yard into the Backyard Paradise contest. todayshomeowner.com/backyardparadise, brought to you by Pavestone and Quikrete.
When they send in their application, they tell you what we have planned for our backyard, or are you guys free to draw up plans and say, this is what we think will be great for your family?
We just want to figure out how they use their backyard. Is it dominated by their kids? Do they entertain a lot? And all of that.
Pets, dogs, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And all of that will guide the design put together by the experts at Pavestone and Quikrete. And they always come up with something that we go, are you kidding? That's going to be awesome. I mean, like a concrete picnic table, or taking a traditional grill, gas grill, taking the sides off of it, the little
wings, the little extensions,
like table little extension things there,
right? And
then taking paver blocks and building it in like it's a custom thing. And I'm talking about within just a couple hours, using nothing but pavestone, rumble stone blocks, and construction adhesive.
Right, there's no mortar involved. There's no mixing of mortar, no nothing.
And most of the time, there's not even any cutting involved because of the several different sizes that they have. You can create almost this entire thing without even cutting it. So you're talking about extremely homeowner-friendly things. I mean, they've built columns. We've built all kinds of things with this, in addition to a wonderful, beautiful floor. And, you put those pavers down, you get them looking good, you get your sand all settled down in there.
Right.
Then you can spray it with that clear masonry sealer that helps repel stains, but also really enhances the color that comes out in that natural material.
Well, that's amazing. And so when they'll send you a picture of their yard, probably with some kind of measurements or something, so you guys know what you have to work with. Now, are you typically looking for a flat yard, which would be easier? Or have you had any yards where it's a little hilly and you have to carve it up a little bit?
Yeah, we've had several. Of course, we did one in Colorado, and had a little bit of a challenge there with having to build up around the perimeter, which ended up making it kind of nice. It was almost it wasn't but about a foot rise there, but it was kind of a cool place for people if your kids were playing out in the yard, almost kind of like a little seat there that you could seat along in there. And that particular one, we were really hustling to get it all done so that we can get the final shots. Because the day we were finishing that night, they got 6 inches of snow.
Oh, wow.
It was 50 degrees that day. We finished it all up. We got all of our shots. The next day, we went back to get the shot before snow and the shot after snow. It was a pretty significant snowfall, so we were glad to be able to squeak that in. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to see what we did because it's covered with snow. So really encourage you to go to todayshomeowner.com/backyardparadise for your opportunity to win. All 50 states are eligible, and we'll be starting to review those right after that deadline of April 4th to name the winner and to set up that trip to wherever it may be. We had a call where a homeowner was asking about lime washing, and it's kind of ironic because we're doing a lot of research right now about lime washing. We've used it before on interior fireplaces, which had great results on it, but we have a homeowner that's interested in doing that outside their home, and we're about to do a television show on that very thing. Thought it would be convenient to bring Chelsea Lipford-Wolf in because she's been doing a lot of research to find out the latest and greatest way to possibly do lime washing on the outside brick surface.
Convenient for us, not for Chelsea.
I know, exactly. Exactly. Chelsea, what?
Your dad forgot that part, Chelsea.
Chelsea, this is something that has been done for many, many years, and manufacturers have responded and created easier ways of doing that. What did you find out in anticipation of this particular project? What did you find out about the world of lime washing?
Well, speaking of worlds, it's a very old world and kind of a European look to use lime wash. And instead of like a solid paint, it's you apply it and then you remove it from certain bricks. So you kind of create that unique and very organic looking covering for your bricks.
Yeah, I thought it was unique that you're able to apply it and then you actually are able to kind of take a little off here or a little off there. It's kind of almost like a palette that an artist has that you step back and look at it and kind of change it the way you want it.
That's right. And, you can apply it with the product we're looking into. You can apply with a paint sprayer, and it comes like a very concentrated goop almost, and you dilute it with water, anywhere from 50 to 100% dilution with water, depending on the look that you want. So it's very customizable, and in my opinion is pretty easy to do because you can use a paint sprayer, and then you simply use a spray bottle or a garden hose to remove it from the bricks that you want to remove the lime wash from. And on top of that, the directions actually call out, which I think is really funny, that within 5 days of applying it, you can actually pressure wash all of it off of your house. So if you put it on and you totally hate it, you can use a pressure washer and remove it. But after those 5 days, it is stuck on your bricks for good.
Well, that's the great thing, Chelsea, right, is that it's very forgivable. I mean, it's unlike almost any other finish I've ever heard of. When you first apply it, you have 45 minutes, let it set. Then you can, as you said, you can wash off some of it or all of it. And that's what gives that distressed look. It's not like painting where every single brick looks exactly the same.
Right.
And you can dilute it, as you said, thicker, thinner, depending on whether you want the color to be richer or thinner, meaning less white or less. And how many colors do you know? I know it's probably doesn't come in as many colors as paint, but certainly enough colors to satisfy most people's personal palate, right?
The lime wash in particular that I'm looking at has 7 colors that are ranging from white to beige to like a gray white. So they are kind of in that white wheelhouse. There are other products available for bricks, like specifically brick paints that can be matched to almost any color.
Right.
And one of the things, too, I think that, I've always questioned painting brick because you're completely sealing the brick. And brick masonry needs to breathe a little bit. But with lime wash, you have that property that you can get some coloration just like you want, as thick or as thin as you want, but it still allows that brick to breathe a bit.
That's right. Yeah, I was going to bring up that point, so I'm glad you did. But, yeah, it's a mineral product, and so it just allows those bricks to breathe, so you're not going to be keeping that condensation inside the walls or anything.
Right. So there's some options for you if you're thinking of kind of changing those bricks. Some brick are beautiful. Other brick, well,
not so much.
Not so much. So here's a great option there. And stay tuned because we're going to feature this on an upcoming show on Today's Homeowner. And you can find out more about lime washing by going to todayshomeowner.com and put in lime wash. Thank you very much, Chelsea. Time for our Best New Product segment, brought to you by the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Emco 400 Series Universal Self-Storing Aluminum Storm Door. Let me tell you all about it. The storm doors serve a very important function by protecting your door and adding insulation to that opening. But for many, they're also double up as a screen door in warmer weather. Now, the Emco 400 Series Aluminum Self-Storing Storm Door makes that even easier by adding a retractable flammable insect screen that stores in the door frame. Simply lower the upper glass panel in the top of the door and roll out the screen for warm weather, or roll it back for an unobstructed view when it's not in use. The universal design accommodates right or left-hand operation, and installation is a very simple 2-hour or less job that only requires basic tools. So for more information on this unique storm door, the Emco 400 Series Universal Self-Storing Aluminum Storm Door, just log on to HomeDepot.com. Hey, let's go right to our email stack here. Marcia in Alabama asks, "Hi, Danny. I love your show. I want to paint my cabinets, but I don't have any idea what kind of paint to use. The cabinets have a medium oak stain. Now, I watched a video about painting with chalk paint. Do you think that's a good idea? If not, what do you suggest? Thank you, and keep up the good work." Well, thank you for those good comments, Marcia.
Yeah, keep working, will you, Danny? She must think you're slacking. You're talking about Hawaii too much.
That's what my wife says. Keep working. But I don't know, Joe. You know, the chalk paint has been very interesting to see how people are, recycling different pieces of furniture. And one of the appeals of chalk paint is they say, you have very little prep, no priming. You put it on and it holds up real good. But, when you're talking about kitchen cabinets particularly, or bathroom cabinets, they're going to get more abuse than any kind of furniture that you're having in your house. And I'm not sure chalk paint is a very good suggestion on that, because I just don't think it would have the durability that you would have with other paints that have a harder finish.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, unless you went over it with a clear top coat of polyurethane or something like that, you might be better off with a whitewash stain and then a polyurethane over that, or just choose a paint. I mean, she's going for medium oak stain, maybe just go to a paint. And they do make paint specifically for cabinets. It's pretty expensive. I used one from Benjamin Moore, and I think it was like $60 a gallon, but it goes a long way. I mean, a gallon paint, do the average, 2 gallons would do a large kitchen easily. So there's your option. But yeah, if you can do chalk paint, I'd be concerned the same thing. It might not be as durable, and you might have to go over it with a polyurethane. But then now you got 2 coats on it.
Right. Yeah. I think I'll tell you what, Marcia. I would strongly suggest you head over to todayshomeowner.com, and in our little search engine there, put painting cabinets, and we have a lot of videos and a lot of step-by-step articles that'll take you through the process, because it is a bit of a process. I mean, in order to do it right, you have to do the prep necessary, because there's a lot of buildup on cabinets. You have grease, you have other just things on cabinets that you have to get off before you apply any paint. So there may be a little bit of a need for a deglosser. You're going to have to do a little sanding. You got to consider what you're going to do with that hardware. And then also we have a lot of tips on there about paint additives that you can use to eliminate any brush strokes. It's really some very inexpensive, simple ways that you can get those professional results by using just a few of these techniques. Again, just todayshomeowner.com and put in painting interior cabinets. Hey, I'd like to remind you of the Today's Homeowner telephone number. Very easy to remember, 800-946-4420. Your place that you can call us anytime at all, just like James from Missouri did. James, welcome to the show.
Hey, hi, guys.
Hey, glad to have you on. Tell us about this water heater story you got going here.
Well, before I do that, I just discovered your radio show on Sunday evening here on KRMS 1150 AM, and I do watch you guys on television all the time, and I think you got a great show. Lake of the Ozarks is where I'm at in Missouri. We got really hard water. My zero water meter reads 350 when I take it out of the tap.
Huh.
And so I've replaced my elements in my water heater every 2 years, ever since I retired here.
Oh, wow.
So it's a pretty standard thing. The water heater stops heating, and I take an element out, and it's gone, and so I replace the elements. This last time I replaced the elements, I replaced the upper thermostat and the lower thermostat. Got everything working fine, and then all of a sudden, a day later, the circuit breakers popped. So I reset them, and it worked for a little while, and then it popped again. So I'm not sure if I need what I need to do.
Well, I tell you, something is not jiving there very well, James. It's kind of a potentially dangerous situation there if the breaker continues doing that. Now, I have seen, just as one possibility, breakers do go bad and they get a little too sensitive after a while. So it's not a hard thing at all to replace that one breaker to see if that's it. But, when you're talking about a water heater that's 15 years old and life expectancy on water heaters is about 10 to 12 years, you have a situation there, particularly with all of the work that you're doing on it, that you really might want to consider getting a new water heater because they're going to be so much more efficient and certainly, a lot more maintenance free. You're not going to have to continue to replace those elements. And I'll tell you what I would suggest is buying one. You can go to Home Depot and buy a really good energy efficient water heater, bring it to your house, and then have a plumber. Plumbers a lot of times like that, not having to buy one, that they can come by and install it, and it can save.
Oh, really?
It can save you a little more money. And some people talk about the tankless water heaters. There's advantages to that, but getting a traditional water heater, a tanked water heater like that, can be installed fairly inexpensively.
Well, I get a lot of this buildup from calcium and lime in the water heater, and I clean that out. And I look through the little hole in the top where I look through there with a flashlight. The inside seems like it's glass lined and looks like it's not bad shape.
Well, I wonder on that. I know, Joe, you've dealt with a lot of the water filters, and
right.
Even though you might not want one on, the entire house, but that feed going into the water heater, do you think James would benefit by having a filter in this case?
Yeah, James, you have hard water. Really, the solution is a water softener, which will take that hard water, take the minerals out. Now,
I'm just going to ask you that. I don't have a water softener, and I wondered if getting one would help, because I think I would like to do that first. Right.
I would get the water tested, and if the minerals really, if it shows it as hard water, that would be your solution, is to get I had one put in a couple of years ago, and it works great. You have to keep filling it with salt, but it works pretty well. Now, you've done pretty much everything I would have suggested doing. Usually it's a bad thermostat that trips this. And also, by the way, for you and anybody else listening, if you have a device, whether it's a water heater or anything else, and it keeps tripping the breaker, don't keep flipping the breaker back on and off, because you could risk overheating the wiring, and that's a fire hazard. So don't do that. Now, the two other reasons.
Yeah, well, I turned it off, and I just heat the water I need now. The last time this happened, it was about a week ago. So I'm just trying to figure out what to do. And then I heard your show, so that's why I called.
Well, we're glad you called. I can think of two other reasons, other than the obvious ones of why, bad breaker or bad thermostat, is if the element itself, the heating element, if it's inside, it's encased in a covering. If that casing cracks or breaks and the wire inside that gets exposed to the water, that's a short circuit, and that will trip the breaker. The other thing can happen if there's a gasket that fails somewhere in there. It'll make contact. The water will make contact with an electrical component, and that'll trip the breaker. So, it might still, even though that element's relatively new, if there's any kind of short or compromise in it, that will, that'll trip the breaker. And these are all safety issues. So it's good to get that checked by a contractor.
Yeah. Can I ask you one other quick question? You mentioned water softener. Is there test kits I can buy that checks I can do my own?
Yes. In fact, I have a simple solution. I can't think of it right now, but you put something in I'm going to look it up, and you can shake it in a water bottle, and depending on how there's a lot of foam or not too much foam.
Like checking your swimming pool water.
Right. Let me come up with that simple solution. I'll share it with you and our audience after the next break.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much, guys.
You're welcome.
Well, James, what we need to do is you need to get these couple things fixed so that you can do a little fishing, you can do a little hiking, and enjoy that beautiful part of the world you live in right there. Well,
hey, 1,300 miles of shoreline.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. You got plenty to see. And thanks so much for listening to our television show and watching our television show and listening to the radio show. We really appreciate that. We have a lot of great listeners and viewers there in the Missouri area. So, James, have a great weekend. We appreciate you being a part of the show.
Well, thank you so much.
Spring is on its way. Almost time to roll out the green carpet. Start planning now with innovative help from the Home Depot. Use our project calculators to figure how much grass seed you'll need, or just the right amount of mulch. Our online workshops and how-to videos will get you up to speed fast, from outdoor fire pits to planter projects. If you're ready to roll, so are we. Download our mobile app to get started. Bring on spring with help from the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
At this point in the show, I always look forward to hearing another great simple solution from my buddy Joe Truini. And as we remind you all of the time, you can see more than 500 of the simple solutions online right now at todayshomeowner.com/simple solution. What about this week, Joe? What do you have for us?
All right, Danny, here's a tip for using bungee cords, not to strap anything down, but to store and organize hand tools in the workshop. This is a strange little simple solution, but it works great. When you want it to do is, first of all, twist off the hooks from the end of the cord. All bungee cords have a hook on it, right? And if you look at just below the hook, the wire is twisted almost like a spring, and you can actually just untwist it. You don't have to cut it off or anything. You just twist it right off the cord itself. So once you remove both hooks, you're going to attach one end to the wall or the book or the like a cabinet or wherever you're storing hand tools. Attach it with a cable staple. And there's a pretty good staple that's used to secure electrical cables. So you staple it in place on one end, and because it has the end will have either a knot or it's folded over the end of the cord, it won't slip through once you hammer that staple all the way in. Then you stretch it out. You want it pretty tight across the wall horizontally, and you staple the other end. And now you can put 2 or 3 more staples in this cord, maybe spaced 4 to 6 inches apart, depending on what you're storing. And what you're doing is just stretching this and holding it tight against the wall, and you can slip tools behind it. So it's perfect for like wrenches or squares, tri-square or a rafter square, something like that. Screwdrivers, anything, depending on how tight you pull this. And they're right there in front of you. You pull them out and put them in. You're not worrying about hooking it on anything. So that's a simple solution, using the bungee cord to store your hand tools.
Boy, I tell you, that would be great, because when you're at your, let's call it our workstation, there at in your shop, and you're able to have access to so many of the tools like that without having to walk over here or walk over there. That way, heck, you might even pull up a chair, like a stool, and you're sitting there tinkering, piddling, tinkering, and all that, and to be able to have all of that stuff right at your fingertips, that's a great one. I can visualize that very easily, right on the wall, whether you have pegboard or not, you can put it right up there, and to be able to slip those things right in behind it. That's another.
And you'll find if you do put up one of these, you'll realize, oh wait, I can store lots of different tools. And you can always put another one above it, below it, or beside it, depending. And these cords, as you know, come, they're a foot long, and they're somewhere 3 or 4 feet long. I've used the ones that are about 16 inches long because it seems to stretch out just about the right amount, the right length.
Now it's time for our podcast question of the week. We would encourage you to send us one anytime by going to todayshomeowner.com/podcast. Susan writes in, Danny, we have a 2-stall carport attached to our home. The stall next to the house sweats terribly when we have damp, humid weather. The other side, not so much. The one that does sweat was built in 1978. When the house was built, the other one was added a little bit later. Is there a product that we can put on it to eliminate this problem? Then in capital letters, help. So we know exactly what you're talking about. Well, the condensation that occurs on concrete, a lot of times people will automatically think, there wasn't a vapor barrier put under the carport slab when it was poured. And many times that's the case because, Joe, I don't know about you, but I've always put a vapor barrier under every slab that I would pour like that, other than maybe a sidewalk that's all outside. Right. But a lot of people eliminate that, and that will contribute to the condensation, but that's not the only thing that can cause this kind of unsafe situation.
Yeah, I've always used we used to call it Visqueen. I'm not really sure why, but it's a plastic sheeting underneath. And I'm not sure why you would not put it. It certainly wouldn't hurt. But yeah, that is not the only reason. And often, and first of all, Susan said that, one was poured at a different time many years later. So you wonder if one had a vapor barrier underneath it, a moisture barrier, and one did not. But yeah, it's usually, high humidity. You need to add ventilation, even if it's just a fan blowing across there. There are some weather conditions where it's going to be hard to stop. But once you get it as dry as you can get it, you can seal it. The product I would probably recommend, there are lots of them out there, and they're all pretty good, is Dry Lock makes one that's called Extreme Masonry Waterproofer Concrete Sealer. Kind of a wordy title, but that's what it's called, Extreme Masonry Waterproofer. And it's hard to put it down wrong. You basically just pour it out, roll it around, spread it out with a squeegee or roll. I think they recommend rolling it. And you might need to put a couple of coats, but that will help seal the surface. And then if you'd only need to put out the fans in really extremely humid weather, or when you have a change from like really cold to really warm weather.
Because, I'll tell you, certain times of the year, I don't think you can keep things from sweating like that.
Right.
I know recently I was down at the beach along the coast, and there's they have a large foyer going into this condominium complex, and it has a tile floor. It's heated and cooled, but people going in and out of the doors, there's just so much humidity that comes in there, and they actually have fans permanently installed, the floor fans like you use to dry out, if you have a flooding situation, and they have a couple of those positioned there all the time that the people that work the front desk will periodically turn those on just so that you have that fan blowing across there to keep there from being any slip and fall. So it's a genuine problem that's really hard to correct, but your recommendation on applying the Dry Lock masonry sealer is that's about all you can do.
Right. Yeah. In fact, this is such a common problem. It actually has a name. It's called sweating slab syndrome, which you don't want to have. Well, at least you don't want your garage to have.
That sounds terrible.
Isn't that terrible? Yeah. And I wonder, when you were talking about it just now, I was wondering, Deitch has that relatively new product, that non-slip product. I forgot what it's called.
TrackSafe.
TrackSafe. I wonder if something like that would help. I mean, this condensation might still occur on top of the TrackSafe, but at least the surface might have enough texture that you won't slip.
Exactly.
That's the issue. It can be slippery. Yeah.
That's another possibility, and you can find out more about that by going to DeitchCoatings.com, and Deitch is spelled D-A-I-C-H. Well, that'll pretty much wrap up this podcast. We appreciate those questions. We appreciate the interaction we get. We definitely appreciate all those wonderful reviews we get each week. We're going to keep working hard to make sure that continues. So if you have an opportunity to write us a review, we certainly appreciate it. And if you would like to ask us a question, again, it's todayshomeowner.com/podcast. I'm Danny Lipford along with my buddy Joe Truini. Thank you so much for listening to this Today's Homeowner Podcast.